Okay, Hare Krishna. Welcome to all the devotees. So in the last week, we discussed from Canto 4, the topic known as Nitya Srishti, Nitya creation. So the creation by Mahavishnu is called Prakritika Srishti, that is creation of the 24 elements and creation of unlimited universes from Prakriti. So that is called Prakritika Srishti. And then from the same 24 elements, Lord Brahma creates the bodies for various living entities such as the plants, animals, human beings, and superhuman beings such as Devatas and Asuras and the great sages, etc. So Brahma's creation is called Vaikrita Srishti or Visarga, Vishishta Rupena Sarga. So it is called secondary creation of living entities by Brahma. And then Brahma's creation ends with the creation of Swayambhuva Manu and Satarupa. And by creating a couple, Lord Brahma established a system that the creation can continue on through the couples. The couples can procreate and beget children. Like that, the creation can continue on throughout the day of Brahma. Then what happened after the creation of Swayambhuva Manu and Satarupa is the subject matter of Nitya Srishti, daily creation or Nitya creation. So Swayambhuva Manu Satarupa married and they begot 5 children: Priyavrata, Uttanapada, Akuti, Devahuti, and Prasuti. And we discussed about the descendants of all these 5 personalities, 5 wonderful personalities in the last class, which is presented in the whole 4th canto and also in the first 15 chapters of the 5th canto. The first chapter talks about the descendants of Akuti, Prasuti, Devahuti, and then chapter 8 to till the end of 4th canto talks about the descendants of Uttanapada, and canto 5, chapter 1 to chapter 15 talks about the descendants of Priyavrat Maharaj. So like that, all those details we discussed. But by the way, going through all those pastimes, we can also understand that in the 3rd canto, Lord Kapila had prescribed various sadhanas that are supposed to be practiced by the human beings in material world so that they can go back home back to Godhead. So sadhanas such as Nishkama Karma Yoga, Jnana Yoga, Ashtanga Yoga, and principally Bhakti Yoga. So having understood that we need to practice sadhana, when a sadhaka takes up a particular sadhana and as he practices and in his onward journey back home back to Godhead, there might be so many obstacles. So what are all the different obstacles that can come in the life of a sadhaka are summarized or are presented with the pastimes that are mentioned in the 4th canto and 5th canto that we have seen last time. That from Prajapati Daksha we understood that how anger, envy, pride cause an obstacle on the path of bhakti. And from Mother Sati's lifestyle we understood that excessive attachment for bodily relations causes a situation that she has to give up her body in presence of her father Daksha. And lineage of Adharma indicates that there are so many personalities that are part of lineage of Dharma who are acting as the presiding deities of all those qualities such as Adharma, lying, cheating, harsh speech, and pride, lust, and eventually all of them lead to Yatana Deha in Niraya. Eventually, those who take shelter of adharmic principles, they will go to Naraka, end up with a Sharira known as Yatana Deha, where one is expected to get pain only. So they are all unfavorable elements for bhakti which take one to hellish existence. Then from Mother Suruchi, we understand that how harsh speech, pride and insecurity causes an impediment in the path of bhakti. Because of that, eventually she was trying to secure the throne for her son Uttama, but that Uttama is eventually killed by Yaksha. So, and eventually searching after that Uttama, she also went and died herself in a forest fire. Such kind of details are mentioned in the 4th canto. Then Dhruva Maharaj, he was ambitious to get a kingdom greater than his great grandfather because his stepmother Suruchi insulted him that he is not qualified to sit on the throne on the lap of his father. So as a result of that, Dhruva performed austerities, performed bhakti, pleased the Supreme Lord, had darshan of the Lord. But Lord gave him the blessing that may you rule the Bhumandala, the Bhuloka, for 100 celestial years. That is equal to one celestial is equal to 360 of human years. So 100 into 360. 36,000 human years Dhruva was supposed to rule the entire Bhuloka. So that point of time, Dhruva was thinking that I had darshan of the Supreme Lord. I'm supposed to go back home back to Godhead, but I have to rule this Bhumandala for so long. This is all because of my material desire. So that is ambitions he had and competitive mentality with Uttama. And King Anga, not choosing a proper companion, he married Sunita, who was the daughter of Murtyu, who is coming in the lineage of Adharma. As a result of that, they had a son, a cruel son, Vena. So same way, in our bhakti, if we have association, if we have improper association, our bhakti qualities will diminish and impious qualities will produce in our personality. So in that way. And Indra, of course, King Vena is the cruel, merciless and arrogant. King Indra is intolerance and envy towards Prithu Maharaj, who was trying to perform 100 sacrifices for the welfare of the humanity. But Indra is thinking that I am supposed to be known as the one who performed 100 sacrifices. How can somebody else become 100 performer of 100 sacrifices? He became insecure and he became envious of Prithu, causing so many troubles to him, etc. King Prachinabari, he became attracted to Karmakanda mentality and continued to perform Karmakanda rituals one after the other. The entire kingdom is spread with the mats made up of kusha grass because of his desire to perform one after the other so many Karmakanda rituals. And Narada Muni had to come and tell that, my dear Prachinabari, you have appeared in the lineage of Dhruva Maharaj, a wonderful great devotee. Swayambhu Manu, another wonderful great devotee. Prithu Maharaj, another wonderful great devotee. How could you become attracted to Karmakanda rituals? It is not expected of your lineage. Kindly stay away from them and practice bhakti. Take to renunciation and practice bhakti seriously. So like that, Narada Muni instructed him. That we understand from the story of King Prachinabari. And Prachetas, they have performed severe austerities in the forest for 10,000 long years. But before they could come home, their father already renounced by the instructions of Narada Muni, went to forest. Since there was no king to take care of the kingdom's responsibilities, the entire kingdom is filled with a lot of trees. Looking at that, the Prachetas became very much angry. And they were about to burn all the trees. That is the result of excessive anger, which is resulted due to intense tapasya. So that sometimes we need to be cautious about that. Bharat Maharaj, misplaced compassion. Those reached the Baba platform, having gone to forest in his Vanaprastha ashram, while performing austerities, in order to show compassion to a deer, he forgot to perform his sadhana. So compassion is good, but not to the extent of forgetting one's own sadhana. That is understood from Bharat Maharaj's lifestyle. Because of that, he had to take birth as a deer. Then he had to take birth as a Brahmana boy. Then in that Brahmana personality, he acted like a dumb person known as Jada Bharata and eventually attained perfection. He had to wait for 2 more lifetimes. And Maharaj Rahugana, identity with one's Upadhi. He was a king. He was thinking that I am a king, controller, master and enjoyer. So everyone should serve me appropriately. Otherwise, I will punish them. Like that, he was trying to punish that Brahmana Bharat. But eventually understanding that Brahmana Bharat was not an ordinary person, but a great soul, he begged forgiveness and heard from him and eventually attained perfection. The scriptures, the authorities say that deer who attracted the compassion of Bharat Maharaj in their previous life eventually appeared as Jada Bharata, Maharaj Rahuguna. And same Bharat Maharaj appeared as Brahmana Bharata and delivered him by giving him suitable knowledge. That was mentioned in the 5th canto. Like that. But eventually in their discussions where Brahmana Bharata was instructing Maharaj Rahugana, he talks about forest of material enjoyment. 2 chapters are mentioned wherein all the obstacles that can be thought of in the life of a sadhaka are very nicely summarized in those 2 chapters. Whoever is interested can go through those 2 chapters in order to get the list of all those obstacles, etc. Of course, they are present in 2 chapters separately. So in our book, Bhagavatam as Seeker's Journey, we have kind of made a table and we have kind of compared what is what. So what is mentioned in the forest is compared to what in our daily life. So that in this section, we can understand that what are all the most probable obstacles in the life of a sadhaka. And the same section of Bhagavatam also prescribes the solution. The solution is to stay in the association of devotees, and in that association of devotees engage in devotional service such as Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu, Smaranam, Padasevanam, Archanam, Vandanam, Dasyam, Sakyam, Atma Nivedanam. Engaging in these 9 activities of Bhagavatam, 9 activities of Bhagavad Bhakti is the only solution. Is indicated in 4th and 5th cantos. So this is how we understand these are these things in this section. So having narrated these details, then Sukadeva Goswami continues to describe the 3rd topic known as Sthana. The first one was Sarga, the second one was Visarga, which had Vaikra Srishti and Nitya Srishti. The 3rd one was Sthana. So the subject matter starts with an inquiry made by King Parikshit. So King Parikshit inquires about the dimensions of the islands and oceans which he had heard about in the story of Priyavrata after the topic was completed. In the very first chapter, the eldest son of Swayambhu Manu, Priyavrata, who being requested by Lord Brahma came home and began to rule over the entire Bhumandala. So during that time, while he was ruling all over the Bhumandala, 12 hours was night, 12 hours was day. So he was not happy with that situation. So why there is so much night and people are simply wasting their time in the night sleeping? So he himself, expanding as the second son, created day wherever the night was there. As a result of that, the entire Bhumandala has been divided into 7 islands, which are separated by 7 oceans. Now, afterwards, that was mentioned in the first chapter, and then the rest of the canto continued with the description of the lineage of Priyavrata Maharaj. Priyavrata had 9 sons, they had many sons, like that, all the way. The lineage ended in the 15th chapter. So at the beginning of the 16th chapter, Parikshit Maharaj is asking this question. So you have mentioned long back about those divisions. Can you please tell about them? What are their dimensions, who are living there, what they are doing, etc. So this topic is called as Sthana. Sthana is defined as Sthiti Vaikunta Vijaya. Sthanam refers to Lord protecting the living entities. This shows the excellence of the Lord in comparison to Brahma the creator and Shiva the destroyer. The 3 deities, Lord Brahma is responsible for creation of the bodies for living entities. Lord Shiva is responsible for the destruction of everything that has been created by Brahma, which happens at the end of Brahma's day. But from the morning to the evening of the Brahma's day, the universe is supposed to be maintained. The maintenance is taken care by Lord Vishnu, specifically known as Kshirodakashaya Vishnu. So, the activities of Kshirodakashaya Vishnus are glorified as excellent in comparison to Brahma's creation and Shiva's destruction. Sthiti also refers to the conditions of the jivas and the geography of the universe. So this is basically topic of the maintenance, how the Supreme Lord is maintaining the entire universe filled with various living entities who are situated in 14 planetary systems with their respect to circumstances, with their respect to conditions in which they are residing. So basically it talks about the geography of the entire universe. So it is indicated the maintenance of the inhabitants of Bhuloka, Bhurloka and Swargaloka principally. How the residents of Bhuloka, Bhurloka and Swargaloka are maintained throughout the day of Brahma, under what circumstances, under what condition they are situated and living. This is the subject matter of the 5th canto, 2nd part. This is called Sthana, which is nothing but maintenance. After creating the entire universe, after creating the 14 planetary systems, after creating all the variety of living entities, now we need to understand where they are living, what are the facilities they are having. It is simple. When we want to get into a house, maybe 1 BHK, 2 BHK, whether we want to purchase or we want to get into on base of rent or lease. we would like to understand what all the facilities are there, whether it is fully furnished or half furnished or not furnished at all. So how many rooms are there, how the kitchen is there, how the this thing, what are the situations, what are the conditions of the living space, that is all subject matter of this second part of the fifth canto. So this will have this many chapters in this section. So in the first chapter, the topic is introduced, wherein Priyavrata Maharaj divided the Bhumandala into 7 dvipas and 7 oceans. And from 16 to 20 chapters, it describes the Bhumandala. Out of the 14 planetary systems, the Bhumandala is the middlemost one. So that Bhumandala will have 7 islands. Among the 7 islands, the innermost island, the central island, is known as Jambudvipa. The details of Jambudvipa are presented very vividly from chapter 16 to 19. 16 to 17 talks about Jambudvipa, its divisions, and the path of Ganga. Ganga passes through all the areas of Jambudvipa that is mentioned. And 17 to 19 talks about the residents of Jambudvipa offering prayers to Lord's various forms. Somebody offering prayers to Lord Ram, somebody offering prayers to Lord Narsimha, somebody offering prayers to Lord Varaha, Lord Kurma, Lord Haigriva, Lord Kandarpa, Lord Matsya. So like that. All those prayers are summarized in 2 chapters. And chapter 19 talks about the glories of Bharatavarsha. So this is Bharatavarsha is the 9th division of Jambudvipa. And Bharatavarsha itself will have 9 divisions. And one among those 9 is called Bharatakanda. That Bharatakanda is our earth globe on which we are living. So all those details are presented in that 5th canto. And then chapter 20 talks about the description of the remaining 6 islands of the Bhumandala. So Bhumandala had 7 islands total. The innermost one is Jambudvipa, and the remaining 6 are described in the 20th chapter. This entire Bhumandala is called Bhuloka, which is one of the 14 lokas. The remaining 13 lokas are described in the remaining part of the 5th canto, 21 to 26, wherein there is a description about the position and the movements of Sun, Moon, and other planets such as Mercury, Venus, Mars, Jupiter, Saturn, Rahu, Ketu, etc. And there is a description about Dhruvaloka, and there is a description about Maharloka, Janaloka, Tapaloka, Satyaloka, etc. for planetary systems. And then the 24th chapter, there is a description about Bhuvarloka and Bilaswarga. Bhuvarloka is the residence of all the lesser devatas and also Yakshas, Rakshasas, Bhuta, Preta, Pishashas, they reside in Bhuvarloka. And Bilaswarga is the residence of Asuras and different variety of Nagas, which includes 7 lower planetary systems known as Atala, Vitala, Sutala, Talatala, Mahatala, Rasatala, and Patala. The 7 lower planetary systems are situated in the Bilaswarga. And then below Bilaswarga, we have hellish planetary systems. And below that, we have Shesha, who is holding the entire Bhumandala, so that the Bhumandala does not sink into Garbhodaka ocean. So these are the descriptions about all the places, all the 14 lokas that are there in our universe. Here you can see this is our entire universe, and this is the Bhumandala, which is in the middle, and these are the different divisions in the Bhumandala. The centralmost island is Jambudvipa, within which Mount Meru is there. It is surrounded by saltwater ocean, and that is surrounded by Lakshadvipa, second island, which is surrounded by sugarcane juice. It is surrounded by Salmali Dvipa, third island, and it is surrounded by liquor ocean, Surasagara, and it is surrounded by Kushadvipa. It is surrounded by clarified butter. That means ghee ocean, a ocean made up of ghee. And that is surrounded by 5th island known as Krauncha Dvipa. And it is surrounded by milk ocean, Kshirasagara. This is here in this Kshirasagara, the Samudra Manthan happened. The Devatas and Asuras brought Mandara mountain all the way from Jambudvipa from here to here. And here accepting Vasuki at the churning rod, Devatas on one side, Asuras on other side. They churned this milk ocean, and eventually they got Alahala and many other things. Finally, they got nectar, which Dhanvantari brought it outside, and Mohini Murti made sure that only Devatas would get the nectar. That pastime happened here in this milk ocean. And then we have Shaka Dvipa, the 6th island, which is surrounded by emulsified yogurt or buttermilk ocean made up of buttermilk, and which is surrounded by 7th island known as Pushkara Dvipa, and which is surrounded by the 7th ocean known as sweet drinking water. So these are the details of all the oceans and 7 islands. So this is how the entire Bhumandala has been divided into concentric circular islands and oceans. And this is the vertical structure of the entire universe consisting of 14 lokas. So here we have the entire universe. The lower half is filled with Garbha ocean. Garbhodaksha Vishnu will be residing in this entire internal area. And here we have the entire Bhumandala like this. And this is Mount Meru. Here we have sun. Sun will be revolving around Mount Meru every day. And here we have Rahu and Ketu, who will be residing in Bhuvarloka. This is the location of the moon. And just above moon, we have 27 nakshatras. This disk represents the 27 nakshatras. Ashwini, Bharani, Kritika, Rohini, etc. They are situated here. Then we have Venus here, Mercury, Mars, Jupiter, Saturn, and Saptarushi Mandal. Pole star. Pole star is also called a Dhruvaloka, which is the residence of Kshirodakashaya Vishnu. Kshirodakashaya Vishnu, the maintainer of the entire universe, he resides in Pole star, looking after the maintenance of the entire Loka. This entire Bhumandala is called Bhuloka. From the Bhumandala all the way up to moon, the intermediate space, this area is called Bhuvarloka. And from moon all the way up to Pole star, this entire area is called Swargaloka. Like that, we have three lokas: Bhuloka, Bhuvarloka, and Swargaloka. And above Swargaloka, we have Maharloka, Janaloka, Tapaloka, Satyaloka. Satyaloka is the abode of Lord Brahma. Lord Brahma resides here, that is shown here. And within this Bhumandala, there are 7 lower planetary systems. So the entire Bhumandala is carried by Shesha, who will be situated here just below that. So like that, the 14 planetary systems are very nicely described in the 5th canto. So the important principle that we understand from studying this section is that understanding of various avenues for Jiva's enjoyment. Jiva comes to this material world in order to enjoy material pleasure. So, but Jiva may not be satisfied with the pleasure available in a particular species. So, Lord gives a facility that Jiva can go from one species to other species in order to experience the pleasure available in that particular species. So, these are the different avenues that Jiva can go to different places and enjoy the material pleasure in the material world. They can go to Satyaloka, Tapaloka, Janaloka, Maharloka, Sargaloka, Bhuvarloka, Bhuloka, and below Swarga such as Atala, Vitala, Sutala, Talatala, Mahatala, Rasatala, Patala, and eventually up to Narakaloka. Even within Bhumandala, Bhuloka also there are so many Dvipa, so many Varsha, so many different divisions. The Jiva can go from one place to other place in order to enjoy material pleasure. So from this we understand that the Lord is providing variegated pleasure for the Jiva's enjoyment. But there is a warning while explaining all the details. Bhagavatam is also giving us a warning that though 5th canto talks about the facilities that are available all over the universe by describing the opulence of the 14 planetary systems, but one should not be fascinated by those heavenly enjoyment. Because Abrahma Bhuvana Loka Punaravarti Arjuna Mamupetitu Kaunteya Punarjanma Na Vidyati. One may think that life continues eternally in upper planetary systems. It is not like that. Eventually, once piety is over, I need to come back to Bharata Varsha. Tetam Bhuktva Sargalokam Vishalam Kshine Punne Marte Lokam Vishanti. By performing pious activities, one may ascend to upper planetary systems, the heavenly abodes. But when the piety is over, one need to come back to Bharata Varsha only. So, one should not be fascinated by those material enjoyments available in the upper planetary systems. At the same time, one should not become indifferent to current situation also, thinking that what is the need to follow the Vedic rules and regulations. Let me live the way I want. Let me perform activity the way I want. So when one does such kind of activities, which are generally called as adharmic activities or sinful activities, as a result, one will go to hell and one need to go through so many hellish punishments, which are also described in the 26th chapter of the 5th canto, in order to warn us that if you don't follow Vedic rules and regulations, if you perform sinful activities, this is what you will end up with. You will end up in the hellish condition. That is where you will be supposed to go through all these punishments. So it is also warning us, cautioning us, stay sane and perform activities as prescribed by the Vedic literature. As Lord Krishna mentions in the Bhagavad Gita 16th chapter, the last 2 shlokas, wherein he says that Yes, Shastramiti Mustruja Vartate Kamakarata, Nasa Siddhim Avapnoti, Na Sukam, Na Param Gatim. If we do not follow the rules and regulations presented in Vedic literature, but act according to our whimsical nature, which is directed towards fulfilling our material desires. Yes, Shastra Vidim Usruja, giving up the Vidhi prescribed in the Shastras, Vartate Kama Karata, and perform all the activities being impelled by our lusty desires, Kama. Such kind of person, Nasa Siddhim, will never attain the fulfillment of one's material desires, will never complete, will never enjoy material enjoyment properly. Na Sukam will never get material pleasure, bodily pleasure. Na Param Gatim. And at the end of this life, will never go back home back to Godhead. Instead, they will end up in Naraka, hellish existence. Therefore, Lord Krishna tells in the next verse, Tasmat Shastram Pramanante Karya Karya Vyavastitau. Therefore, accept Shastra as the guiding principle, Shastra as the ultimate Pramana, wherein what to do and what to not to do is mentioned. Karya Akarya Vyavastitau. What to do and what not to do is very nicely prescribed. Jnatva Shastra Vidanoktam Karma Karatum Iharsi. Having understood what is to be done, what is not to be done, Jnatva Shastra Vidanoktam Karma Kartum Iharasi. Having taken birth in Bharatavarsha Iha, perform the activities accordingly. Those activities will give you liberation. As Lord Krishna mentions in the 3rd chapter of Bhagavad Gita, Yajnartat Karmano Anyatra Lokoyam Karma Bandhana. Perform all the activities as an offering to Supreme Lord. Such kind of activities will never bind a person. Otherwise, if the activities are performed for our own sense pleasure, those activities will only bind us in this material world. In order to help us understand this particular principle, immediately Lord Krishna gives an example. The living entities in the material world, especially at our place, we perform 4 kind of activities: eating, sleeping, mating, defending. Ahadar nidra bhayamaitunamcha samanametat pashubi naranam. But among all these 4 activities, eating, sleeping, mating, defending, in relation to eating, we perform so many sinful activities. Because other activities one may perform once in a while, but eating one need to perform every day without fail 3-4 times. So that is the biggest sinful activity one may perform throughout one's life. Because this is the most frequently performed activity, and there could be sin associated with this. So what is that sin associated with eating? Lord Krishna there itself, he tells that Yagnashishta Shinashanto Muchante Sarvakilbishai Bunjatete Agama Papa E Pachanti Atma Karanat. In relation to eating, if the food is eaten for one's own tongue pleasure, they are simply eating sin. But if somebody eats food that is first offered to Supreme Lord and then accepts it as Lord's mercy at Lord's Prasad, those people are never bound by sin. In fact, they are freed from all the sinful reactions. So like that, in relation to any other activity, if those activities are performed in relation to Supreme Lord, then offering to Supreme Lord, then they will never cause bondage. Even in relation to mating also, Lord Krishna tells later in the Bhagavad Gita, Dharma aviruddho bhuteshu kamosmi bharatarshaba. When the sex life is performed not contrary to religious principles, in accordance to the religious principles, that is not binding activity. So in that way, every activity when it is performed as an offering to Supreme Lord, they will never bind a living entity. So in that way, this section of the Bhagavatam indicates us never become fascinated by hearing the enjoyments available in the heavenly abodes, the upper planetary systems, and at the same time, never become attracted to sinful activities that you can perform here, which eventually land up in, take one to hellish planetary situation. So Bhagavatam is giving these 2 warnings by describing all these things. So that is the understanding. So these 2 warnings we have to understand from the 5th canto. Why not is taking? The problem is that Lord is not giving all the facilities to bind us, but he is giving all this variety just to fulfill our curiosity. Out of curiosity only Jiva comes to this material world in order to experience enjoyment separate from the Supreme Lord. But after coming here, we forget our original identity and try to enjoy more and more in this material world. As a result of that, we are creating our own destiny in variegatedness. But when we understand that all these things, then we can focus on the performance of bhakti and focus on our journey back to Godhead. So why is there such variety in the material universe? Actions are performed due to one's faith in three gunas, as Lord Krishna indicates in 17th chapter, Shraddhatraya Vibhaga Yoga. Our actions are, our whatever actions we undertake, they are influenced by three modes of material nature. So the destination also appears in proportion to the gunas. Urdhvam gachanti sattatsva, madhye tishtanti rajata. Jaganna guna vrittisya adho gachanti tamasa. If we perform activities in the mode of goodness, we go to heavenly planets. If we perform activities in the mode of ignorance, we go to hellish planets. If we perform activities in the mode of passion, we may remain where we are, something like that. So based on our degrees of faith, there will be degrees of happiness and distress. If we have faith in the mode of goodness, we get happiness in the heavenly planets. If we have faith in the mode of ignorance, we get misery in the hellish planets. If we have faith in the mode of passion, we remain here and get mixed happiness and misery. So in that way, Sattva leads to Sarga Loka, Rajas leads to Bur Loka, Tamas leads to Naraka Loka, in that way. Thus, the hellish planetary systems are merely transformations of desires in Tamas, which is due to beginningless ignorance. So it is like that. It is not that Lord has created all these places to punish us. Instead, we are only creating our own destiny. It is within our hand that with a proper knowledge about all these things, all these places, we need to focus on bhakti. Instead of focusing on piety, which takes us to Swarga, instead of focusing on impiety, which will take us to Naraka. Better to focus on bhakti, by which one can go back home back to Godhead. So that is the underlying principle that is presented in the 5th canto. So this is how a person after death will be taken to the court of Yamaraj, where Yamaraj judging how many pious activity that person has performed, how many impious activity that person has performed, and he awards respectable destiny. If they have performed sinful activities, they will go through all these punishments in the hell, such as all these things which are shown in this figure. So then, having heard that how the sinful living entities have been taken to hellish planetary systems, they go through all the hellish punishments, Parikshit Maharaj's heart becomes melted. And then immediately he asks a question to Sukadeva Goswami. Hearing of the suffering of men falling to hell, compassionate Parikshit Maharaj asks, my dear Guru Maharaj, Sukadeva Goswami, please explain how a person can avoid going to these hells which have terrible pain. So just by hearing what kind of punishment they are going through in the hellish planetary systems, Parikshit Maharaj concerned about the well-being of all the living entities in general. Then he asked this question, how can a person can avoid going to hell only? Then what to speak of going to punishment? So in order to help us understand this concept, how a person can avoid going to hellish condition, Sukadeva Goswami described the 4th topic known as Poshana. Poshana means Poshanam Tad Anugraha. Poshana means the mercy of the Lord shown unto the devotees who are living in perfect peace of mind under Lord's protection. Poshana is basically, there is a slight difference between Sthanam and Poshana. Sthanam is Lord provides suitable circumstances to living entities according to their karma, according to their activities, according to their belief system, faith, giving them proper birth in a suitable living, suitable space, suitable body, suitable creature, etc. That is general maintenance of the entire universe. But Poshana specifically meant to devotees. When devotees accept bhakti, when devotees accept Lord's lotus feet as their prime shelter, And while they are practicing bhakti, there could be some mistakes because there are so many obstacles that are mentioned in the fourth canto and the fifth canto. So sometimes devotee may be deviated from their natural sadhana. They may commit some mistake, they may commit some papa, etc. But the Supreme Lord gives them second chance. That second chance to correct their mentality is called Poshana. So Lord maintains his devotees, his surrendered devotees by giving them second chance so that they can correct themselves and rectify themselves and then progress on the path back home back to Godhead. In protecting the jivas, the Lord shows his mercy to some, the devotees performing the sadhana, even if they are involved in sin by accident. Knowingly or unknowingly, they may commit some sin, but Lord gives them a second chance to correct themselves. So, what are the examples that Lord chose? Lord gave second chance to all the people who have committed mistake in the past. So, giving protection to Ajamila, Daksha, Indra, Chitraketu Maharaj, Diti. Sixth canto shows Lord's special affection towards his devotees. So, sixth canto talks about all these pastimes of these personalities, and which shows that Lord's special affection towards his devotees. Even though they made a mistake, Lord gave them second chance to correct themselves. So it is like that. So this is how Lord giving his special affection towards the devotees is trying to uplift the jiva drowning in the ocean of material existence. As jiva prays to Supreme Lord while practicing sadhana, because of so many temptations, so many difficulties, they might do some mistakes now and then. But if they are continue to raise their hand toward the Lord, requesting Lord to lift them, Lord comes down and lift them eventually. So, the flow of the chapter canto like this. So, having heard the question by Parikshit Maharaj that how can the human beings can avoid going to hell and eventually avoid hellish punishment. So, in order to answer that, Sukadeva Goswami initially says that, yeah, let them perform prayachitta, the karmakanda rituals as a prayachitta, so that they can avoid going to hell. Parikshit Maharaj said that, no, this is my observation that even in spite of performing prayachitta, they again commit sinful activities because the desire to perform sinful activity is not gone. Prayachitta simply removes the sinful reaction, but not the sinful tendency. I don't think that prayachitta is a suitable solution. Then, Sukadeva Goswami says that jnana acts like a forest fire. It will burn away the entire sinful reactions. Everything will be completely destroyed. Then Sukadeva Goswami, Parikshit Maharaj said that, okay, my dear Guru Maharaj, jnana is like a forest fire. It will burn away all the forest. But the problem is that there may be some seeds which are within the earth. When the earth goes into the cracks, there may be some seeds are situated in the crack which are not burnt by the forest fire. Eventually, when there is rain, the seeds again grow into the tree. The jnana can burn away all the karmas, but the karmic tendency may be there in the core of the heart. Whenever there is an opportunity, again they creep up. They manifest in the form of sinful activities. So I don't think that jnana is the perfect solution. Then finally, Sukadeva Goswami said that, yes, my dear Parikshit, you have rightly understood the concepts of jnana and karma. It is bhakti is the only solution which completely eradicates the sinful tendencies. Any trace of sinful tendencies that are there in the core of the deep within the core of the heart are also completely eradicated by bhakti. Bhakti can remove the prarabdha, aprarabdha, kutam, bijam. Everything will be eradicated by bhakti. Those who take up bhakti, even they will not even see Yamadutas in their dreams. Then what to speak of seeing the Yamadutas in person? This is how Sukadeva Goswami said that. So those who perform bhakti, they will not even see the Yamadutas. Then what to speak of seeing Yamaloka and then going through the punishments awarded in the Yamaloka? So in order to establish that principle that they will not be able to go, they will not even go to Narakaloka. Sukadeva Goswami speaks the pastime of Ajamila. Though initially Ajamila was born in a Brahmanical family, but eventually by seeing a prostitute embraced by a Shudra, he becomes attracted to that prostitute and he throws away his parents, his wife from the home, and eventually being attracted to that prostitute in order to maintain her, he becomes a robber. He steals the property of others. He becomes a cruel person, punishing others and killing them, stealing their wealth, etc., etc. He performs so many sinful activities, but somehow or other, by the careless mercy of some devotees, he named one of his son, the last son, as Narayana, who was very young, who was tender boy. And while playing with him, while taking care of that small boy, he would always chant the name of Lord Narayana by shouting at him, by calling him Narayana, Narayana, Narayana. But simply by chanting the names of the Supreme Lord, Narayana, slowly his sinful activities, sinful reactions are gradually eradicated. When it was time for for him to die, three Yamadutas came down in order to take his soul along the subtle body to Yamaloka. That time when he looked into Yamadutas, becoming afraid of the Yamadutas, fearful forms of the Yamadutas, he shouted at his son, Narayana, Narayana. As he chanted the name of Lord Vishnu, which has 4 syllables, 4 Vishnudutas suddenly appeared there and told the Yamadutas that since he already chanted the name of Lord Narayana, all his sinful activities and their reactions are completely evaporated and he no need to be taken to Yamaloka. Please leave him there. Then the Yamadutas, following the instructions of Vishnudutas, left him there and they went back to Yamaloka. And there, Vishnudutas tells him that your life is still remaining, and then they disappear. Then, understanding that he has still some more time in his life, Ajamila goes to Haridwar and lives his rest of the life that is mentioned in the Bhagavatam as 12 more years in performing unallied devotional service. And eventually, at the end of his lifespan, Vaikunta Vimana comes and takes Ajamila to Vaikunta. So that is what a person can attain in spite of deviating from his natural way of lifestyle, in spite of performing so many sinful activities. But since he has taken up the path of bhakti, unknowingly chanting the names of Lord Vishnu, he attained highest perfection. Mriyamano Harer Nama Grinan Putropa Chabilta Charitam Ajamilopi Agaddama Kimbuta Shraddhaya Gunan. At the time of death, he chanted the names of Lord Vishnu, actually chanting, indicating to his son. He was actually chanting the name of his son only, but it is the name of Lord Vishnu. Mriyamano Harer Nama Krinan Putropa Charitam. While calling his son, he chanted the names of Lord Vishnu. Aro Ajamilopi Agaddama. If Ajamila could go because of that to Vaikunta, then what to speak of those who chant the names of Lord Vishnu, indicating to Lord with full faith. Kimbuta Shraddhaya Granan. Then what to speak of the benefit one can receive chanting the names of Lord Vishnu, indicating to Lord Vishnu with faith continuously every day at every point of time, what kind of benefit they can have. So this is the understanding we can have from this section of Bhagavatam. The first 3 chapters of the 6th canto. Having heard that, then Parikshit Maharaj asks another question, that I wish to know about Daksha and the secondary creation made by Daksha. Because at the end of the 4th canto, when the 10 Prachetas having ruled sufficiently, they gave the responsibility to take care of the entire kingdom to Daksha and they went to forest. But on the other hand, Daksha did not rule, did not become the king. But Daksha went to forest and performed austerities in order to become the old Daksha, who was the son of Brahma directly. So he performed austerities starting from Swayambhu Manvantara all the way up to Chakshusha Manvantara. In Chakshusha Manvantara, where there was a pralaya, when Lord Matsya appeared and informed King Satyavrata that there will be a pralaya in 7 days, that entire Bhurloka, Bhuloka, Swargaloka will be inundated. As a result of that, eventually everything was inundated. And after the pralaya was over, there was no one to continue the creation. So Lord Brahma again has to create. But Lord Brahma thought that now I will not create. I will inform Daksha to create on my behalf. That time Lord Brahma empowered Daksha to create all the living entities. So now Parikshit Maharaj is asking that you mentioned that Daksha created all the living entities, Chakshusha Manvantara. Can you please tell me how did Daksha create all the living entities, etc., etc.? So then all those details about Daksha's activities in the Chakshusha Manvantara are presented in the 4th chapter to 6th chapter. All these chapters talks about various activities of Daksha and his descendants. They are all mentioned in this section. So in this section, while describing the descendants of Daksha as he was procreating various children and filling the entire universe with a variety of living entities, he talks about Vishwarupa, who is the descendant of Tvashta, who is the son of Aditi. Aditi begot all the devatas. One among them was Tvashta. Tvashta had a son known as Vishwarupa. So while mentioning that Vishwarupa, when the Brihaspati rejected the devatas as his disciples, so then the devatas accepted Vishwarupa as their spiritual master. So that was mentioned as a point of discussion. That time Parikshit Maharaj asked a question that why did Brihaspati reject the devatas? What offense they did that Brihaspati disappeared completely and they had to accept Vishwarupa as their guru? That entire subject matter is mentioned in the remaining part of the 6th canto. Like in the 7th chapter, it says that when Indra became the king of heaven, he becomes puffed up with all the facilities of the heaven. So one day there was a huge celebration was going on. They were all immersed in observing the dance performance of the Apsaras. Brihaspati suddenly enters in that assembly. But Indra did not pay attention to the entry of Brihaspati. He did not get up, he did not receive. Understanding that Indra was affected by the wealth, Indra was affected by the position and possessions, and understanding this behavior in Indra, Brihaspati suddenly left that assembly. And then Indra realized immediately that he made a mistake, that he did not receive his guru properly. Then immediately went to the home of Brihaspati. But Brihaspati understood that Indra is coming and he disappeared completely. And then Indra understood, I committed a big offense to my guru, by whose mercy I attained this Swarga, by whose mercy I became the king of heaven. Because I displeased him, I will lose all my possessions. Then immediately understanding this, the Asuras waged war against Swarga. And Indra, though he fought with Asuras, but he was defeated very easily. And he became powerless, positionless, wealthless, poverty-stricken. So at that time, they approached Lord Brahma. Please do something. Then Lord Brahma told that, please accept Vishwarupa as your guru. So they accepted Vishwarupa as their guru. Vishwarupa performed a yajna. He performed a yajna specifically to invoke Narayana Kavach. With that Narayana Kavach, Indra defeated all the Asuras and he again became Indra, the king of Swarga. But eventually, Vishwarupa's father was from the side of Devatas. Vishwarupa's mother was from the side of Asuras. And Vishwarupa was born with 3 heads, 1, 2, 3. So eventually, after Indra became the king of heaven, Vishwarupa was requested to perform yajnas after yajnas to increase the strength of Indra so that he can continue to be the king of heaven. So, but Vishwarupa also had his mother coming from the side of Asuras. He also had a soft corner for Asuras. So while performing yajna, he would offer one oblation for the well-being of Indra. He would offer another oblation for the well-being of Asuras. When Indra understood that he is also performing yajna for the welfare of Asuras, immediately Indra cut off the head of Vishwarupa. When the father of Vishwarupa understood that Indra cut off the head of his son, Tvashta performed another sacrifice to invoke a demon who would kill Indra, who would be the killer of Indra. But while chanting those mantras, while offering those oblations, instead of chanting the mantra Indra Shatru, he chanted Indra Shatru. So Indra Chatru means the enemy of Indra should be born from this yajna. Since he chanted Indra Chatru, the meaning is that let there be a person who will be appearing from this yajna, whose enemy will be Indra, and who would be killed by Indra. He wanted to produce a person from yajna who will kill Indra, but he chanted a mantra in such a way that a person will be born from this yajna will be killed by Indra. So as a result of that, Vritrasura was born, and Vritrasura raged war against Devatas. Devatas were utterly defeated. Again, Devatas went to Lord Vishnu seeking shelter for their protection. And Lord Vishnu told that, please go to Dadishi Muni and he will collect the bones of Dadishi Muni, and Vishwakarma will make a Vajrayudha from that bones, and that Vajrayudha will kill Vritrasura. So they went to Dadishi Muni and requested him to give his bones. Dadishi Muni gave his bones, and Vishwakarma made a Vajrayudha from that bones. And with that Vajrayudha, Indra went and began to fight with Vritrasura. At one point of time, Indra seems to be completely defeated. That time, Vritrasura tells that, please take that weapon as it is ordained by Lord Vishnu, made from the bones of Dadishi, and kill me with that weapon. You kill me and become the king of heaven, but being killed by you, I'll go back home back to God and become an associate of Lord Vishnu. And then he was began to offering prayers to Lord Vishnu. So Indra unwillingly kills Vritrasura, and Indra regains his kingdom, the king of heaven, etc. That is all fine. But eventually, having heard this entire pastime, Parikshit Maharaj asked the question that, how did that sinful Vritrasura, who was a great asura causing trouble to the entire universe, who caused so much suffering to others, the Devatas and other sages, etc., become so fixed in Krishna during the raging war? Even though in the midst of the war, he was offering prayers to Supreme Lord, he was telling Indra that you kill me and you become the king of heaven. I will go back home back to God. What is this? So in order to answer that, Sukadeva Goswami speaks about the past life of Vritrasura. In his previous life, he was King Chitraketu. He was a wonderful religious king, but who was not destined to have a son. In order to get a son, he was marrying one after the other, many millions of wives, but still he could not have a son. At one point of time, a great sage, Angira Rishi, I think, he comes to Chitraketu Maharaj in order to give him spiritual knowledge, but he was not able to accept that. He was worried that he could not have a son, he could not produce a son. So he was lamenting because of that. And he also requested the sage, please help me to come out of this situation. Then Angira Rishi, though understood that he cannot have a son, but still gave him a son, requesting him to name him as Arshashoka. But eventually, his first wife, Krutadurti, got a son, but he became eventually attracted to that son and became attracted to that wife. But other wives felt that they were neglected by the king. They became insecure and they poisoned their son. The son died, and both the mother and father became so much lamented that our son has lost, our son has gone. They lost as if their life has gone. That time Angira Rishi brings Narada Muni, and Narada Muni gives the transcendental knowledge to Chitraketu Maharaj. And Chitraketu Maharaj understood the temporary nature of the material world. And then he requests for the divine instructions. As a result of those instructions, he performs austerities for 7 days and he becomes the king of Vidyadharas, and he also had darshan of Lord Sankarsana. And then he continued to worship the Supreme Lord, Lord Sankarsana, as a Vidyadhara for many days. So time passed very quickly for 1 lakh years, just like that. So Lord Vishnu is waiting for him to come home, come to spiritual world, but he was not coming. So Lord Vishnu created a situation that it happened so that once Chitraketu Maharaj was traveling in his Vimana, Lord Shiva was speaking from Vedic literature to the 4 Kumaras, to Narada Muni, and to all other great sages such as Bhrigu, Vasishta, etc., keeping Mother Parvati on his lap. And he was speaking about renunciation from Vedic literatures to all these great sages. And Chitraketu Maharaj looking at this wonderful sight, and he said that it is only you can do, simultaneously keeping your wife on his lap and also speaking about renunciation. So Mother Parvati becomes annoyed. Hey, what is this? You are trying to tell that my husband is doing wrong? So she immediately curses that, may you become Asura, that is fit for your arrogance, something like that. So, but Chitraketu Maharaj comes from the Vimana and pays obeisance to Mother Parvati and requests her that not to become angry. I will accept whatever destination you order to me. Thank you very much. Saying that, he goes and becomes Rudrasura. And in that battle, being killed by Indra, he goes back home, back to Godhead. So like that. So like that, all these details are mentioned. And also, Sukadeva Goswami continues the further descendants of Daksha and Daksha's children, etc., etc. All the details are mentioned. While mentioning that, he mentioned that Diti begot two children, Hiranyaksha and Hiranyakashipu, who actually snatched away the kingdom from Indra. And in order to help Indra, the Supreme Lord appeared as Lord Varaha killed Hiranyaksha, appeared as Lord Narsingha killed Hiranyakashipu, and made the Devatas attain their kingdom back. So then Parikshit Maharaj asked, hey, what is this? Lord no. So, but afterwards, in order to kill Indra, Diti performs a special sacrifice known as Pumshavana Vrata in order to get a son who would kill Indra. But Kashyapa Muni, her husband, tricked her to perform Pumshavana Vrata. As a result of that, she begot 49 sons. Instead of becoming the killers of Indra, they became subservient sons of Indra. So basically, she wanted to have a son who would kill Indra, but Kashyapa engaged her to perform Vishnu Vrata, known as Vaishnava Vrata, known as Pumshavana Vrata. Because she worshipped Lord Vishnu, her intentions have been eradicated, and she begot sons who became Devatas, who became powerful Devatas, powerful wind gods, Maruts, and they became the stepbrothers of Indra and began to stay in the heaven. So like that, knowingly or unknowingly, if somebody performs devotional service, they will be protected by the Supreme Lord. So Ajamila was protected, Daksha was also protected, and Indra was protected, Chitraketu Maharaj was protected, Rudrasura was protected, and Diti was protected from all these pastimes. So like that, 6th canto will help us understand how to get special protection from the Supreme Lord. So Ajamila, who became attached to sinful life, still he went back to Godhead. Daksha, who is attached to material name and fame, but he was given service to beget children to fulfill the entire universe through the medium of Brahma. And Indra, who neglected his Guru Brahaspati and killed his another Guru Vishwarupa, but still Lord Vishnu protected him, gave him second chance to continue service as the king of heaven. King Chitraketu, who was wandering as a Vidyadhara and laughed at Lord Shiva, but through the curse of Mother Parvati, he came back home, back to Godhead. And Diti, who took shelter of anger and revengeful attitude, but Kashyapa instigated her to perform Vaishnava Vrata, Pumshavana Vrata, because of which she begot Devata-like sons and who became Devatas, and she also became satisfied. So like that, how to receive Lord's special protection while practicing our sadhana will be explained in the 6th canto. So the other few things we can understand from 3rd, 5th canto and the 6th canto. Thank you very much. So we'll stop here. It is already 35. But still, before closing our session, if any devotees have a couple of queries, we'll take and we'll close. Hare Krishna. So there are a couple of queries in the chat box. There is one question is that, is Patala inside the earth? So all the 7 lower planetary systems, Atala all the way up to Patala, they are all inside the Bhumandala. Bhumandala is not our earth globe. Our earth globe is a tiny part of the bigger Bhumandala, and the 7 lower planetary systems are situated within the Bhumandala. So it is like that. So since Satyaloka, Janaloka, etc. are above Jambudvipa, so what is the location of Atala, Vitala, Sutala, Patala, etc.? So Atala, Vitala, Sutala, Patala and all, they are inside the Bhumandala. They are located very much inside the Bhumandala. Of course, here in this presentation, I have not shown many details about all these places, But eventually, as you are discussing third canto right now, when you come to fifth canto, we will have elaborate discussion on the fifth canto section. That time we'll see. But if you are curious to understand about all these details, we have a book known as Bhagavata Cosmology. So that book presents all the details. So those who are interested, you can purchase that book from our gift shop or from the website, Tulsi Books website. You can have those details. And if you have any doubts, you can write to me and you can talk. I will respond. Okay. Any other queries based on our discussion? Yes, Prabhu, go ahead.
Yeah, Prabhuji, I was just saying that if anybody has any questions, they can unmute. Okay, so I don't think anybody has any other questions, Prabhuji. So thank you so much, Prabhuji, for giving us your valuable time and giving us this wonderful class of Bhagavatam overview. We would all like to thank Pavaneshwar Prabhuji by 3 times loudly chanting Hari Bol, Hari Bol.
Hari Bol, Hari Bol.
Thank you very much, Prabhuji, for giving me this opportunity.
Yes, Prabhuji. Thank you so much for giving a wonderful class. So we'll end today's session here and we will meet tomorrow again sharp at 4 p.m. for Harikatha. Thank you.
Hare Krishna. Grantara Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Ananta Koti Vaishnava Bhakta Vrinda ki jai. Hare Krishna.